So Taylor, do you think there were, when you went through, if you had to, let's say, hope it doesn't happen, but let's say from somebody from a church or somebody goes through the same, I don't know if you've had that experience that somebody's gone through the same thing, and how have you helped them? How have you used your own experience to kind of help them with the communication?
So
or how would you if you haven't, that hasn't come through till now?
Yeah, so I actually feel like I'm like the go-to person, which is okay. I'm all right. I'll accept that role.
It's a lot on your shoulders.
Yeah. And I think, what I always try to do is direct people to appropriate resources where they can get information that will help them. But two, I think that so often we sometimes try to respond or have an answer to have a solution. And I think that oftentimes if we just take a minute and just listen and not be worried about what we're gonna say next is really, really important. So I always try to encourage people that have either been diagnosed or, are trying to support a family member or friend that's been diagnosed, is that they don't have to have an answer for everything. Oftentimes people just want the opportunity to just talk. And that we don't need to be worried about what we're gonna say next, but just being in the moment. And so that's one of the things I really try to encourage people that are, caregivers that are walking through this with somebody, is just be there to listen.
So do you, in your churches, is it for this call your pastor, for this call Taylor?
I just think word of mouth happens, and then people are like, oh, well, Taylor, works in cancer and she's had cancer, so go ask her.
I think it's a huge compliment.
It is. It's
a huge compliment, Taylor.
And I think I've been fortunate to have opportunities where I've been very engaged in the cancer community, and so I am fairly knowledgeable about the disease, not clinically, but about where to seek resources.
Shepherd people, which is very, very important. So Nancy,
and
if you had to talk to caregivers, you've been caregiver yourself, both men and women, husbands and wife, what are your kind of your tips that you would give them for communication? Here's how you can make a journey, a little bit smoother. What all tips would you give them?
Well, I think several of them we've talked about a little bit, but definitely taking somebody with you as an extra set of ears, taking something to write with and trying to basically take notes of any questions that you have, because the information comes at you so quickly, and you may find the answer to that question later in the conversation, or you may have to actually ask the question.
So maintain a diary or something?
A diary, and definitely seek a second opinion if you have any. Well, I think a second opinion is probably always a really good idea if you have the time to do that. But definitely seek a second opinion if you have any questions, or if you're asking the questions and the answers that you're getting back aren't lining up in your brain, then seek another person to see if you can get a better understanding. If you can't, you can use somebody on your care team, or you can, get a true second opinion.
That's great. So tell me, Richard, so for the patient, you use mindfulness and do you use that for the caregivers? What kind of resources do you do for the caregivers, including mindfulness, including, mind, body, spirit, and everything? So how do you educate them to take better care of themselves and for the patient?
Sure. That's a big question.
Yeah.
And there's a
you
lot
of
ways to approach that. Mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy to give them tools to address those thoughts that are jumping around. And when we're in crisis, they tend to jump from negative thought to negative thought. Reinforcing again what they already have used in the past. And also just a lot of what, and Nancy just ended with this, is the medical team. Is really, you've got your supports, you've got your openness, you've got all of that in your family and friends if you're lucky. And don't forget the medical team. And don't see the medical team only as your oncologist. And for those, and it's a growing number of survivors in America, some of them are chronic and will be in and out of treatment, but live for many years. Your medical team, after the treatment stage and beyond, and after a few months after that, it's going to really meld into your primary care physician and other people. So, and don't just turn to them, especially in oncology, the nurse practitioner, the social worker, the physical therapist, the patient navigator. More and more hospitals have that. And integrative medicine, which when I was diagnosed 20-some years ago, there was no integrative medicine. And I don't think there's a comprehensive cancer center in America that doesn't have a CAM or integrated medicine department.
to help the patients along. So I always, when I talk to my patients, I always say, it's not like a 100-meter dash, it's like a marathon, and probably a marathon with like hurdles, right? That you have to go through and then you have to jump through and still keep on plugging ahead. But this has been cathartic, for me also as a physician. And Taylor, just your amazing journey, and Nancy as a caregiver, and Richard for all you do for the patients. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.